mid-17th century, the British Isles were a cauldron of political and religious turmoil. The restoration of Charles II to the throne in 1660 marked the end of the English Civil War and the interregnum, but it did not bring peace to all corners of his realm. Both Ireland and Scotland had their own distinct grievances and ambitions, which often put them at odds with the newly restored monarchy. Ireland had been a battleground long before Charles II's restoration. The Irish Confederate Wars, 1641–1653, and the subsequent Cromwellian conquest had left deep scars. Land confiscations, brutal reprisals, and a change in land ownership had transformed the Irish social landscape. When Charles II took the throne, many Irish Catholics hoped for the return of their confiscated lands and some measure of religious freedom. However, Charles II's policies were cautious and often ambiguous. He needed the support of the powerful English Parliament, which was dominated by Protestant interests. The hopes of the Irish were largely dashed, as the Act of Settlement 1662 confirmed much of the Cromwellian land redistribution. This act ensured that those who had acquired lands during Cromwell's rule retained them, while many dispossessed Irish Catholics were left without recourse. Tensions simmered as the years passed. The imposition of the penal laws further marginalized Catholics, restricting their rights to practice their religion and to participate fully in public life. Although no major revolts erupted during Charles II's reign, the resentment and sense of injustice among the Irish Catholic population set the stage for future conflicts. In Scotland, the situation was even more volatile. The Scots had been key players in the Wars of the Three Kingdoms, initially siding with the English Parliament against Charles IX, but later switching allegiances in hopes of securing their religious and political objectives. The execution of Charles IX and the rise of Cromwell's Commonwealth were deeply unpopular in Scotland, where loyalty to the Stuart monarchy remained strong. When Charles II was restored, the Scots were initially hopeful. However, Charles soon showed that his priorities lay in consolidating power rather than honouring previous promises. The Scottish Covenanters, a Presbyterian movement that had been a dominant force during the Civil War, found themselves increasingly sidelined and persecuted. Charles II reasserted episcopal governance, which the Covenanters vehemently opposed, having fought for a Presbyterian church governance structure. This led to the first of several uprisings, known as the Pentland Rising in 1666. The Covenanters, frustrated by persecution and the imposition of bishops, took up arms in the southwest of Scotland. The rebellion was quickly crushed at the Battle of Rullion Green, and the harsh reprisals that followed only deepened the resolve of the Covenanter movement. The killing time, 1680 to 1688, saw severe repression, with many Covenanters executed or forced into hiding. Despite the brutal suppression, the spirit of resistance endured, laying the groundwork for the Glorious Revolution of 1688. Which would bring significant changes to the political and religious landscape of Britain. The revolts and unrest in Ireland and Scotland during Charles II's reign were symptomatic of deeper issues that would continue to plague the British Isles. In Ireland, the unresolved land and religious issues would explode into violence in subsequent decades, particularly during the Williamite War, 1689–1691. In Scotland, the Covenanter movement's struggle for religious freedom and political power would contribute to the eventual union of the Scottish and English crowns under a single parliament in 1707. Charles II's reign while marked by restoration and relative stability in England, was a period of unresolved tensions and unfinished business in Ireland and Scotland. These revolts and the responses to them shaped the future of the British Isles, leaving a legacy of conflict, resistance, and eventual transformation.